So Allie, you were telling me that you were actually on the road and
Yes.
you're living out of a trailer, like an
Yeah.
RV trailer.
Yeah. So I'm living on the road out of a 21-foot travel trailer. It's a used Palomino. I think it's a 2012. And I've been living in it for the past 4 months with my boyfriend, Nick.
hmm
Um, so we've been traveling around creating content. All of the work that we do is online. So earlier this year, we decided it would be a good idea to live out of a trailer. So that's what we're
That's so
doing.
awesome.
Yeah.
What made you come up with that idea? Was it, the traveling, the experience, like the outdoor experiences with the content?
Yes, definitely. So our work is focused on hunting and angling and other outdoor recreation. We do a lot of content creation. So anytime that you can be in a new area or experience something new in any of those categories, it's great for content. So van life is a popular thing. I don't know if you've heard of that. But it's this kind of like I like to think of the trailer as a less sexy version of van life. So we we kind of had that idea from seeing other folks live mobily, and once we realized that we had, the opportunity to work remote, work wherever we have an internet connection, really, we thought it was a perfect opportunity to live on the road. So that's kind of what started it all.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm actually building out a Sprinter 3500.
Ah, so you're going to
Um,
be the real van life.
Oh yeah, it's cool. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna
Nice.
use it for expos, but I'm gonna live on the road, and
Oh, sweet.
I'm just setting it up to be able to travel and do, live out of it, but also do the content thing as well. Because I mean, that's, as you know, like you have to. I mean, if you want to be in the space and you want to be valid and being
Yeah,
taken seriously, you have to do it, live that lifestyle. So many people don't nowadays.
totally.
So
Yeah.
how did you give me your background. Give me your background on, how, where you're from, how you got into outdoor everything. Because, I've been following you for a while on Instagram, which is, at outdoors underscore Allie, Allie. And what I like about, your page is just the diversity of outdoors, from bow hunting to actually, the ethical kill, the off-grid stuff, the fishing stuff. How'd you get started in that?
Yeah, it's a wild story. I grew up in the Pittsburgh area and had always been involved in the outdoors. I used to ride horses and fish with my family, but I didn't hunt, and no one in my family hunted. And it wasn't until I had met my boyfriend Nick in high school, um, that I got into it. But the funny thing is, he wasn't into hunting whenever we first met either. He didn't have anyone in his family who hunted, um, until he had an injury on his elbow that stopped him from playing baseball, and his falls opened up. And he had one uncle who convinced him to go into the woods with him. And he sort of fell in love with hunting and would start going into the woods all of the time. And I was like, what the heck? You never did this before? We've been dating for 3 years and I've never seen you hunt before. What the heck? But sure, I'll go along. I'll try it. And at the time, it was mostly because I wanted to hang out with him. But that changed over probably a period of 2 years from observant hunting. And it was the first time that I saw him kill a white-tailed deer. And the experience was really, like looking back on it, it really was the moment that changed everything, because that animal went from an animal to a source of meat and a source of food. And I might be going on a little bit of a tangent here. I
No, it's a
apologize,
good
but
tangent. No, it's a
I,
good one.
I have a degree in emergency medicine, and I had always been very into anatomy and physiology. in the human body. And whenever we were actually breaking down this animal, it was like all of the dots connected. And I understood, or maybe not understood, but I felt so much more connected to the circle of life, not to sound lame, but it really did come full circle for me. And that next season, I decided that I wanted to try and hunt now that I figured it out. So that's where it began. And from there, I started my Instagram page, and it was the summer going into that first archery season. And I just bought a compound bow and was excited to share. And at the time, I followed a lot of fitness pages on Instagram. And I saw people who were, you know, developing this community around fitness. And I was like, I'm going to do that for archery or, for hunting, bow hunting, whatever, just because I was excited and didn't know many other people doing it. Because once again, my boyfriend and I just, it was sort of his uncle that started that. So it was a way to create a community and to connect with people. And yeah, that's when the Instagram started. And that was in June or July of 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys have been doing it for a while now, but
Yeah.
I know, I've noticed, it's, have you developed this into a business? Because, we actually, for Fieldcraft, we actually do a lot of social media, everything. And we learned it on the fly. It was nothing that was taught. It was just, observation and then learning as we went. And I noticed you have a good balance. What I don't like about uh, men and women who get into the social media space is I don't know if it's sexize, is this is a word,
Sure. Yeah.
but they make it all about the imaging and not about the experience. And like you said, when you hunt, what people don't understand about hunting period outside of it is it does bring life full circle, and it's about the experiences. And what I've noticed about your account is you're able, through content, through the actual imagery, to tell the story. And, that story is very narrow in its field because you're focusing on your mission. And, it looks like outdoor preservation, hunting preservation or conservation. And there's a whole bunch of things that are in your wheelhouse. What is your mission now? I'm sure it evolved from the beginning. Like you said, it started out as archery, but it looks like it's evolved a lot. What is your mission today with the social media page?
So I was really fortunate. About 3 years ago, I started working for a hunting apparel company called First Light. And they are a group of people who are very focused on wildlife and public land conservation. And they're just good advocates of hunting. In my opinion, they're, the kind of person or the kind of group of people that I would want representing the field. And I had worked for them for a couple of years. And so as I was growing into myself as a hunter, I was also exposed to the side of hunting that is about food and adventure, and then giving back to conservation and somehow contributing to the protection of public lands and protection of our wildlife, etc. So I really think that experience has shaped my view, and what I want, my page to represent and my content to focus around. So I really appreciate what you said about, um, telling a story, because I think my mission, I try not to think about this too much because I want it to just be real and authentic. But at the same time, I realize that I have a platform and, it is important to think about those kinds of things. But I think if anything, if I can just inspire people to, go outside and find ways to enjoy it through their own lens, whatever kind of outdoor experience makes them happy. And I think that's where, the diversity, it's not one type of hunting or one type of fishing or one type of location that really makes a great experience outside. It's a lot of different things. So I think it would be that in hand with wildlife and public land conservation.
I think that's really awesome. I like how you included all those things and you're telling the story because the reality is, even if it's for a business, if you're just telling the story and being real about it, it resonates and you don't have to push really an agenda. You just kind of do what you do it makes sense to people and then they follow that. And it makes them want to go outside. I mean, I look at your picture sometimes and I'm an avid fly fisherman too, and I want to be out there, but then I see you, and I'm like, well, why am I making excuses not to be out there? And it drives that kind of that ideology in a positive way that you need to get outdoors, you need to get these experiences, and not just all about it on social media.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I noticed that you're also the co-owner of Worn and Weathered, and
Yes.
Tell me about Worn and Weathered. What's the mission statement of Worn and Weathered?
Yeah, Worn and Weathered is a really exciting project that my boyfriend Nick and I have been working on for over a year. And the idea of Worn and Weathered is probably 2 years in the making. But Worn and Weathered is a lifestyle and apparel brand started by Nick and myself. And the mission there is very similar to the things that I was just saying, to create a community of like-minded folks who want to be outside, who give a damn about conservation, and like to have fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted and fun and, a way to connect with people, a way to connect to the earth. So it's launching this November, and we're still busy getting, everything ready for launch, and it's finally starting to grow some legs, and soon it will hopefully grow some wings and will take off here in a couple months.
Well, that's awesome. If we could do anything for you, we have a little bit of social media traction like you, and if there's anything we could do, I'd definitely love to help you out. I know we just collaborated. You're actually collaborated with me on an Eastman's article.
Yep.
And, Eastman's huge in the hunting industry. And as a contributor for Eastman's magazine, I was asked to write an article on survival and wilderness medicine and what happens to hunters and what happens to people who are in the outdoors and something goes wrong that involves trauma. And a lot of people don't consider kind of the maybe contingency plans when it comes to outdoor lifestyles until it's too late, until the worst case scenario has happened.
Right.
And then everybody changes their behavior. Then, what are some things that you kind of do as a kind of standard operating procedure in your everyday outdoor life that, sets you up for the potential worst case scenario?
Totally. So in a former life, I was an EMT and then a paramedic. So I do have some formal medical training that I definitely think is a useful skill to have as a hunter, especially as a backcountry hunter. I do solo hunts. I've done solo overnights before, and I think one of the most important things that you can do is just let people know where you are and where you're going. Even if it's only a couple people, that is a really important first step. And one tool that I think everyone should have, regardless of whether it's a backcountry hunt or not, is some type of, satellite phone, some type of like Delorum, something to connect with people in places where you may not have cell service, because, we've all heard the stories of something bad happening in the backcountry or bad happening out in the woods, and the situation doesn't end well, but had this person had, been able to flag someone that something was wrong, the outcome could have been very different. So I really think it starts with telling people where you go before you go there, and then having some way to connect with people while you're there.
That's awesome. That's real good advice. Not a lot of people, I mean, communication obviously is the lifeline, even when you're dealing
Yeah.
with trauma, if you don't have the communication available, then, I mean, you're already deep into your contingency plans.
Yeah.
Um, what's, Tell me, what's your passion in this? Like, I know you're driven by the outdoors, you're driven by the experiences, but what is it about the outdoors, hunting, all these things that you're doing? What drives you to do this? Is it you being together with your significant other? Like, what is the passion behind it?
I think it all comes down to people, and it's in a couple different veins, but definitely being able to spend time with loved ones. We have a deer camp, we call it, in Pennsylvania, where every fall, when hunting season rolls around, we get a big group of friends together, and these are some people who hunt and some people who don't hunt. But it's just this like camaraderie experience of everyone being at camp together and being outside around a fire and laughing and telling stories and sharing a drink. And that kind of experience is really valuable. And I think that you get that in the outdoors in a way that's much different than other experiences. And, that goes for an elk camp or, fly fishing trip or, maybe you're offshore fishing somewhere, like any kind of outdoor experience. There's a special bond there that you share with other people. So definitely selfishly, I'm passionate about it because I'm able to connect with the people that I love, but also bigger picture, I feel weird talking about this, but I think that I touch people in a way. And I get a lot of messages from even like dads who watch with their daughters or whatever it may be. Just inspiring people to get outside. That definitely drives me.
Yeah, I don't think that's selfish at all. I think the fact that you have that self-awareness is a testament kind of to keep you um, in this field because you have a responsibility. I think it's a new responsibility to, be role models for young women, even
Yeah,
young men or everybody who's out there. Cause, the
totally.
reality is there's not a lot of women in the sport who are doing it for the right reasons, just as, men in the sport. So I even look at you and I'm like, man, if I had a daughter, or,
Yeah,
I would want them to look up to you because of how you're doing it. And I think you're doing it right. Whether it's, showing full spectrum the experiences, to just being positive about things. I think, with everything going on in the world and the toxicity that we live in, a lot more people have to go get outside and just get away from technology in a way. And
yeah.
so I think that inspires people to do that. Right? And it's kind of weird even saying that because it's social media, right? But
I know,
but
right?
it gives them the understanding that, hey, I need to go out and capture this image myself or capture this experience myself.
Yeah.
And the favorite thing that I think you said is the fact that it's about people. I just, we do a lot of research on different studies and psychology and everything else. But it's proven, the longest study done with people in psychology is a 75-year study. And what they determine at the end of that 75-year study, analyzing these people's lives, is the key to happiness is surrounding yourself with good people.
Wow.
And I think, that's even longevity. So it's always a positive thing if you're doing that for that means, which is to be around people. And I appreciate that. Also on the technical side, you do a lot of bow hunting, you do a lot of fishing. Let me ask you, what is your favorite kind of fishing, and what's your favorite kind of setup? Because I know you fly fish a lot. Is that your favorite kind of fishing?
Yeah, so I So, rewind whenever I was working for First Light, the hunting apparel company, everyone in the office was a fly fisherman or fly fisher gal. And they would get on me because I would, spin rod fish for bass in Pennsylvania very casually. And the entire office they were all just these, um, like super serious anglers, and they would poke fun at me that I, wouldn't fly fish. And for the first year or two, I drug my feet and I was like, no, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm good. And they would poke some fun. But finally, I was actually on a trip with my family, and we were in Bozeman, Montana. And as a family, we went on a guided fly fishing trip. And it was everybody's first time fly fishing other than myself. At that point, I had tried it once or twice, but never, didn't really pick it up. But on that trip, having someone give me some instruction, um, things started to click, and I caught my first fish on the fly, and it was a brook trout. And it was such a cool experience. And as soon as I left that trip, I bought my first fly rod and have been a fly angler ever since. And um, I think that there's something to the knowledge that goes into it. And, it's not hard to fly fish, but you have to want to do it or want to learn. Um, and I think there's something about that I love. And since then, I've picked up fly tying, and I'm horrible at it, but it's a great thing to, it's a great pastime. I find it really enjoyable. So fly fishing for sure, and trout are trout are my favorite. And it's kind of silly because, um, I think part of that is just because they're beautiful fish and they live in beautiful places. So, that's really what I love about them. I eat trout, and every time I do, I'm like, there are better tasting fish out there, but, but yeah, fly fishing for trout. So you're an angler as well.
Yeah, yeah. So what I think is cool is that you hit right on the point. The fact that, it's like spin rods, you could just throw it in there, just fire and forget. You just leave it,
Totally.
and you can just totally zone out. But what I like about fly fishing is you always have to be engaged, and you're always conscious of what's happening. And it's almost like therapy in a way, because it takes your mind to something that's not dealing with stress and not dealing with
Yes.
the outside world around us. So I agree with you. I'm a big angler from really that same kind of background and experience of doing it for the first time, and then realizing that, it's so technical. The areas that you fish are so beautiful. The fish are amazing.
Yeah.
And so full circle is just an awesome thing to do. Um, Let me ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, do you see yourself continuing to do this? Do you want to have a family? Like, what's the 5 year plan for Allie?
Oh, that's a big question. I think, I think if I could keep doing what I'm doing now, that would be the ultimate goal for 5, 10 years. If I can continue to travel, hopefully I'll upgrade to a van and I'll be out of the travel trailer at some point, or, buy a home somewhere. Like I definitely have the itch to travel and the itch to continue to create content. So if I can keep doing what I'm doing, that's really where, I want to continue to be in the future. And children are definitely on the radar, but just not quite yet.
Well, that's awesome.
Not
Uh,
quite.
what is, just wrapping up, what advice would you have for anybody who kind of wants to follow in your footsteps? I mean, I know it's a complex journey, and there's a lot of lessons learned. But if you had to give somebody advice, like a young girl or a young man who's wants to get into this kind of lifestyle, wants to start his own business, and or wants to experience the outdoors, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I think for folks who want to work in the outdoor industry and maybe not even social media, but just the outdoor industry in general, um, man, I think my advice is to find something, this is very cliche, but find something that you're passionate about and it makes you really happy and figure out a way to make that part of your job. And at first it may, you may be working for free. You might be taking photos, um, for free until eventually someone gives you a break and then you're able to turn that into a business, just as an example. I think for me, when I started, it was and still is, just a passion. And I wasn't, you know, expecting or hoping or wanting anything from starting my Instagram page or my YouTube channel or any other form of social media. I think because, I was doing it just because I loved it, that's the right place to be in. And even if it didn't work out, I'd still be on there sharing and connecting with people because I think, it just comes down to what's going to make you happy, and things tend to figure themselves out. And, it might not happen immediately, but it, it won't matter because if you're enjoying the journey, then that's what it's all about.
Oh man, that's amazing advice. That's exactly what I like to hear about. It's a lot of people forget to experience the now and enjoy the
Yeah.
journey that they're living. Instead,
Yeah.
they're always focused on, hey, what's the next best thing, or comparing themselves to somebody else and wishing that there was something else. It's like, why don't you look right in front of you and maybe you'll recognize some beauty in life in the here and now instead. And you know, you have several social media pages. You have a whole bunch of things going on. How can people get in touch with you, or how can people follow you on your journey and your business? What are some of your pages?
Yeah. So my Instagram page is probably my most well known, and that's at outdoors_Allie, Allie. And I do have a funny story about that. When I first started, there was no underscore. It was just Outdoors Allie. And I would share photos and folks would comment and be like, "Great work, Sally," or "Nice photos, Sally." And they were calling me Sally. And it took a while, but finally I was like, okay, I have to put an end to this. My name isn't Sally. So that's why the underscore's in there.
That's awesome.
On Facebook, I'm also Outdoors Alley, and on YouTube, Outdoors Alley as well. YouTube is actually one of my favorite social media platforms because I think that you're able to connect with people in a way that you just can't on Instagram. And I love Instagram, but there is something about YouTube that's just a lot more personal. So that's my favorite of the three. My email's listed in my Instagram profile. I love messages from people. I'm always happy to help, answer questions or, help any way I can.
Well, that's awesome, Allie. Thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being on the podcast today. I know you're a busy woman and you got a lot of things going on, but I appreciate the time, and I hope that we can get the opportunity to work together in the near future
Absolutely.
on projects. And if you guys didn't hear it before, and I'll put this all over social media when it drops, but Allie is a contributor on an article I'm doing for Eastman's magazine, so stay tuned for that. And then stay tuned for more to come from Fieldcraft and Outdoor Alley. Allie, thank you very much for being with me today, and I hope you have safe travels. And if you ever need anything, please let us know.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. And likewise.
Yep, have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.